Hello and welcome to the YYC Soccer Podcast. My name is Jason Kmet and my co-host is Scott Strasser. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Jason. Happy Thursday.
Yeah, happy Thursday. It's almost the end of the week here. Have you had a good week? I'm guessing you've been pretty busy at work these days.
Yeah, pretty busy, but always excited to put that aside for a bit to talk about local soccer stuff.
Yeah, me too. It seems like I've been spending a lot of hours at work. So yeah, this is a good break. So if you are a new listener to our podcast, though, Scott, tell us what is the YYC Soccer Podcast is all about.
So the YYC Soccer Podcast focuses on all elements of soccer in Calgary. We talk about amateur, post-secondary, and professional teams, talk a lot about Cavalry FC and the Calgary Wild. And at this time of year, we talk a lot about the city's post-secondary soccer teams, those being the University of Calgary, Mount Royal University, and SAIT.
Yeah, and this week we're going to talk about Cavalry's match on Vancouver Island against Pacific. The Wild are playing on Saturday at McMahon Stadium against AFC Toronto. We will talk about the Dinos, the Cougars, and the Trojans, both men's and women's teams. And we have an interview this week. Scott, who did you have a chance to interview this week?
Earlier today, I interviewed Bella Chirico, who is the captain of the Mount Royal University Cougars women's team. She's a fifth-year defender, and she also played League One Alberta last season for Callies United.
I think it's a good get, Scott. Thanks for arranging it. Mount Royal, I think we all expected the Dinos to have a good year on the women's side, but Mount Royal has really impressed as well. So, it's nice to see both teams doing so well, and it's good to get some insight from her.
Absolutely. And with two key matchups involving those two teams in the coming weeks, it was a perfect opportunity and a perfect time to talk to her about it.
Yeah, we'll get to the interview in a little while, but we'll start with Cavalry FC.
I am Christian Greco-Taylor, and this is the YYC Soccer Podcast.
So, Jason, Cavalry still has a lot to play for, considering their last game was a defeat. They don't have third place in the bag by any means. They're on Vancouver Island this weekend, taking on Pacific, Sunday afternoon, 4 p.m. kickoff. Pacific is a team that has really struggled in the CPL this season. They're in seventh place at the moment. They really haven't managed to generate much offense. You and I have been kind of puzzled by what has happened to Pacific, who are typically a pretty competitive team in this league, but they will have home advantage. So, I'm expecting a Cavalry win, but I'm not expecting a rout by any means.
The Cavs should be expecting to get 3 points, and they need to. They're in a good position to stay in third place and have that bye through the first round. But, you got to make sure you're winning your games. If they win their games, they've got that spot. So they can't really easily afford to drop points in this any of these last few matches. But this one seems like one that they should definitely be expecting to win.
Definitely. Pacific, let's just rattle off their last few games. 4-0 loss to Forge on September 27th. The week before that, they lost 3-0 to Halifax. Their game before that was a 1-1 draw with Vancouver FC, who they are next to at the bottom of the CPL standings. Before that, it was a 2-0 loss to Atletico Ottawa. Before that, a 1-1 draw with Valor, who's also out of the playoff picture. And before that, a 5-1 loss to York United. And before that, a 2-2 draw with Halifax. So honestly, they haven't won in the last, 7 games. And their last win was against Vancouver FC on August 10th. So nearly 2 months ago. And only a couple of goals scored since then. They've been shut out in quite a few of their matches. So a Pacific team that really looks down and out, that hasn't been able to find a solution to their woes. And if you look at the CPL table and the statistics, they, by some distance, are the least prolific offensively with less than a goal a game this season.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad, Pacific had such a strong team there for a while, and they seem to really be doing a lot of things right. But it just seems like it's all kind of unraveled on them here the last little while. And there's the talk about stuff going on off the field, but even before all that stuff happened, the stuff on the field just hasn't really been clicking for a while now. So I feel bad for some of the supporters out there on Vancouver Island. They seem to be kind of at a bit of a low point in the existence of that franchise right now.
We've talked in the past about how we felt that they were putting a lot of stock into the signing of Ronan Kratt from York United, and that they were going to lean heavily on him to score their goals, and he would be serviced by Marco Bustos, who has been a really good player at the CPL level and was coming back to Pacific after a couple of seasons in Europe. But of course, Ronan Kratt got injured very early into the 2025 season. Did he play like 1 or 2 games? So that
3 or 4 maybe at the most. Yeah, but not like it was the first month.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem like they managed to find somebody to replace him. And 24 goals scored in 25 games. At the other end of the pitch, they've conceded 50, which is the 3rd most in the league this year. So really, really brutal goal differential. A team that is definitely down in the dumps.
We don't know all the details of the roster makeup here, but last week we saw Mael Henry. He was back in the lineup he sat on the bench, and we know Sergio Camargo was out of action. Congrats. He apparently became a father, and so he missed the last match. But the team, there shouldn't be too many absences for this match, although we are going to be expecting some absences next week when the international window hits. But I don't think any of those are going to happen quite yet, not this weekend anyway. And one more thing I want to just add in about the international window, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more next week, but congrats to Mihail Gerasimenkov for his first call up to the full senior Moldovan side. When he's been doing these international breaks, he's been going up to the U21 side, but he's got the call for the big team this time. So although I have to admit, I would rather have him around for that Forge match, but hey, I guess if he's going to go, it's nice to go to the senior team at least.
Hi, my name is Kaylee Hunter, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
So, Jason, even though Cavalry has quite a bit to play for in their last couple of matches of the 2025 regular season, the same can't be said for the Calgary Wild, who are, of course, after last week, eliminated from playoff contention in the Northern Super League. They're going to be hosting AFC Toronto at McMahon Stadium this Saturday. Kickoff is at 2 p.m. Kind of a weird one, considering that, as well as the fact that Toronto has already clinched first place in the NSL. So do you think this will be kind of a scrimmage, or do you think that either team is really going to go for it?
Well, I think from AFC Toronto's perspective, they're probably going to be playing a lot of their second string players. Like, it wouldn't shock me to see some of their regular players get a little bit of a run out, but they'll be careful with the minutes and they'll be careful with what's going on out there. But there's no real incentive for them in this match at all. Like, their incentive is stay healthy and just try to maintain some general positiveness, I guess. But for Calgary, they're going to try harder than Toronto. And, these players are playing for their right now. It's as simple as that. We don't know how everything is going to shake out for next year. But I think that when we've talked about the roster for the Wild, when it hits the off season, I think unquestionably some of these players will be, won't be with the club next year. So, they're players, like I said, they're playing to be professional soccer players in 2026.
Yeah, you and I privately have talked about, we both agree there's probably 6 or 7 players on this Wild team who we would definitely like to see back, but the rest of the squad, it really is a matter of fighting for their jobs next year and proving in these last couple of games that they do deserve to be on this team or at this level. So definitely more of an incentive for Calgary to play hard this weekend, and they are the home team and will want to put on a good performance for their fans. But I agree with what you said about Toronto likely resting their starters, but that doesn't mean they're still not going to be strong, right? Like, this is a team that has really dominated the NSL, especially in the second half of the season. And And looking at their record, 4 wins and a draw in their last 5 matches, 38 goals scored compared to 20 from Calgary, and 14 wins out of 23 games compared to 7 wins from the Wild. So despite being the away team, despite probably resting a lot of their key players, you have to assume that Toronto is probably not going to be a walkover at all in this game.
For sure. There'll be some players who maybe don't get as many minutes as they would like, and this is going to be their chance to show the coach what they can do. So
what I would say is that Calgary, I think they've lost their previous 4 games to Toronto. So if nothing else, I mean, this offers an opportunity to try and get a positive result against AFC in their last chance. And really there is, when there's nothing to lose, sometimes that can give a player a lot of freedom to just try things. So that does bode well for Saturday, I think.
Hi, this is Bella Chirico, and you are listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
okay, let's talk about USports, and we're going to start with the women's division. National rankings came out earlier this week. The Dinos were previously in 3rd place nationally. They've dipped down to 5th. And Mount Royal Cougars, they were at 16th, and they've inched up to 15th.
They are both going to be at home this weekend on Saturday. The UFC Dinos will be hosting the Saskatchewan Huskies. However, this game is not going to be played near the UFC campus, while they have been playing their home games at McMahon up until now. Of course, we've already mentioned the Wild will be playing at McMahon on Saturday afternoon. So the Dinos will be hosting the Huskies at the Calgary Soccer Center, and kickoff for that one is at noon.
There will be another all Cougars matchup on Saturday afternoon at 1 p.m. at Mount Royal. The University of Regina Cougars will play the Mount Royal Cougars. And then we've got some action on Sunday where basically they switch dance partners, as I like to say.
Yeah, Regina will be taking on the Dinos at 12 o'clock. This game will be at McMahon Stadium. And then at MRU, the Cougars will be hosting the Huskies at 1 p.m.
One more thing I was just going to mention, I don't have the list in front of me, but from a Calgary soccer perspective, the University of Saskatchewan Huskies women's team is chock full of Calgarians. There's, I think, 6 or 7 Calgarians on that team. So there'll be a lot of family members in the stands and stuff. So there is definitely a connection between Saskatchewan Huskies and Calgary. And probably make it add a little bit of extra juice to these matchups.
Definitely. And before we run our interview with Bella Chirico, we'll just mention the Calgary teams are definitely the favorites in this weekend's matchups. The Dinos are currently in first place with 9 wins and a draw, so unbeaten in their first 10 games. The Cougars are 3 points back with 8 wins, a draw, and a loss for 25 points. Saskatchewan is in 4th with 18 points, 6 wins and 4 losses. And then Regina is in, I believe that would be 7th place, 3 wins, 6 losses, and 1 draw.
Okay, so I think now would be a good time to run our interview with Bella Chirico. Scott, you did the interview earlier today. Anything you want to add in before we run the interview here?
Only that she was very well spoken, and I loved what she had to say about the upcoming Crowchild Classic. We'll talk more about those games next week, but it's clear that she's very amped for that local derby. There's still some soccer to be played before then, but I loved what she had to say about the opportunity to play the first women's Crowchild Classic in 3 USports seasons. I'd like to welcome Bella Chirico to the podcast. Bella is a defender for the Mount Royal University Cougars, and she previously played for Callies United in League One Alberta. She's the captain of the Cougars women's team and is in her 5th and final year. Bella, thanks for coming on our podcast.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me.
I understand that you are originally from Vancouver. So to start off the interview, I kind of wanted to ask about like your minor soccer career and how it came to be that you ended up signing for a school in Calgary when it came time to choosing your post-secondary.
Yes, so that's a great question. So I'll kind of split it into two because it's a little bit of a longer story. So I'm originally from Vancouver. I grew up playing for a few youth teams up there, Burgundy Girls, Cliff Avenue, and then when I was kind of transferring over to like the more like the U18s, Div 1 league, they kind of call it in BC. I played with Burnaby Selects, so it's called BDMS, so Burnaby District. And then when I was roughly 14, 15, 16, I transferred to play, it's called HPL, so High Performance League, with Mountain United. Now it's called Burnaby FC. They kind of combined into one big club now with a bunch of the local clubs in Burnaby. And then I played HPL for a couple years, and then obviously COVID hit on my grade 11 year, and kind of threw me off a little bit because I'm like, I knew I wanted to go play university. I didn't know kind of where, and a lot of the programs out in BC, it was tough. Like you had to kind of do your own recruiting, if that makes sense. Like my coach, he was great, but a lot of times like it was kind of left to us. And I knew I wanted to play Canada West. I just didn't know exactly where. So I reached out to a few coaches. I didn't know a whole lot about Mount Royal, kind of just all of the players. And I talk about it a lot now because I honestly, I wouldn't see myself anywhere else. But like the schools, just I fell in love with it immediately. I got here my first year, right when I was 18, and like I met Tino, I met the girls, I met the team, and I knew Mount Royal had a really good criminal justice program, which is the program that I'm currently in. And yeah, I kind of came in here my first year. I loved it, and I've been here ever since. But I had a couple other schools I was interested in as well, a few out east, but those kind of didn't really climb through. And Mount Royal was like really wanted me, and here I am.
And would you consider yourself like an adopted Calgarian now, or?
It depends who I'm talking to. Like I love Calgary. Like from someone who's from Vancouver. Obviously, Vancouver and Calgary have a lot in common, and also not a lot in common. Everyone from back home was like, "What, Calgary? It's so cold, and what are you doing?" And I'm like, "No, like it's so sunny here. Like I love Calgary. It's definitely my home away from home. I've developed like some great friends." Like, some family friends I call here, and my dad did a lot of work and had a lot of family out here as well. So Calgary was like, it wasn't super familiar to me, but when I came out here, it was like, I've been here before.
Looking at how this season has been going, it's been a really strong start from the Cougars. You guys are in second place in the Prairie Division with an 8-1-1 record. I wanted to ask, why do you feel the Cougars are having such a strong season this year?
And I've gotten that question a lot, even just the last couple of weeks. I think just the girls are all on the same page. Like, we're a very close, connected group of girls, and everyone, I think I remember us talking last year, like, we've been in the Pacific Division the last couple of years, and I think that's kind of given us a little bit of like fire under our seats to be like, hey, like, yes, we've had some really tough competition the last couple of years, and now, okay, we're going into the Prairie Division. It's like we all have the same goals and right mindset about how we want to compete this year. And yes, we're a young team. We've always kind of been a young team, but a lot of the girls who came in last year, they're all second and third years, and I think they're a lot more mature this year. They're consistent, like 11, 12, 13 players that play. And a lot of us like I said, just all the same mindset about we want to be here, we want to win, and we want to do well. And we want to shock the division and just make it to have a record-breaking season.
I'm glad you brought up the Cougars were playing in the Pacific Division, I think the last 2 years. And yeah, obviously, there's some tough programs that you'd have been playing against out in BC, like the UBC Thunderbirds and Trinity Western Spartans in particular, I think about. But I also thought that maybe coming back to the Prairie Division may have been difficult considering you'd be taking on opponents you'd become maybe less familiar with in the 2 seasons that the Cougars were away. But it seems like you guys have hit the ground running. So did you find that maybe the competition in the Prairie Division was a little less of a challenge than playing those teams out in BC, and also factoring in the longer road trips you would have had to do as well?
I think, yeah, like you mentioned, those road trips, I'm not going to lie to you, last year and the year before, our weekends were long. They were tiring. There was a flight almost every second weekend. You were leaving on a Thursday, coming back late on a Sunday night. So those kind of caught up to you after a while. But obviously, my first 2 years, we played the Prairie. We were in the Prairie. And then when we came to Pacific, again, it was a big, I don't say a culture shock, because it's I find personally, the teams are a lot more stronger. Not saying the Prairie division isn't as strong, but I think just like the girls over itself, like their cohesion out there is they're a lot more senior players, I find, compared to the Prairie divisions. Yeah, like I said, like coming back into the Prairie division, it wasn't necessarily a shock. We knew kind of who our biggest opponents were. Like having that first game against U of S this year was like a huge stepping stone for us. Like we knew exactly that game was going to dictate the rest of our season and like how we wanted to go into the weeks coming up. And getting that first win immediately set like just like a ripple effect of like we all want to be here, we all want to win. And like, even coming to play back against like we knew U of S, Keelan, and then like the Dinos who we're going to face here in a couple of weeks are going to be like our biggest competitors, and we want to like show up as much as we can in those games. And but like I said, like I've had this mentality as like a captain. I've said this to my girls, like it's one game at a time. Yes, I care about our opponent, but at the end of the day, I care about us. And it's like, if you believe we can do it, like I firmly believe the coaching staff believes, but it's like we all need to believe that we can, be here and regardless of the opponent.
Mm-hmm. You, of course, are in your 5th and final year with the Cougars, which I imagine is a pretty bittersweet feeling. I want to ask about how important it is to you to kind of go out on a high in terms of finishing your USports career. And I wanted to ask about a goal you scored this season, because you did score in a 2-0 win, which I noticed was the 3rd goal of your USports career and the first one since the 2022 season. And obviously you are primarily a center back, so scoring goals isn't necessarily your primary role for the team, but what did it mean for you to nab a goal in your final season?
That goal, it was a lot of fun. Obviously it was against McEwen at home, and it was a header goal. So off from actually a well delivered ball from Tamir Jurcik. She's a little shout out to her. She's been a super key competitor for us, and especially in the front 5. But yeah, no, that goal. It was exciting. If you look at the goal itself, like I think I ran back to my bench. Everyone was just like, "What are you doing?" Like I think I did like almost a full lap of the field because I was just so excited. Like against McEwen, and we've always had tough games against them, and to finally get a win against them at home again in my 5th year it was super fun. Like super fun. And the girls, like we just had like a great game, and I've talked about that game since then, and it's just been a lot of fun. And I've always said I want like to score on like especially on restarts and corners and all that kind of stuff. Not up front a lot of the time, but there's definitely more that I want to score in the next few games while I can, because I just, like I said, I want to end up on a bang, and I want to leave this team with a memorable season, and we have, but I think there's so much more we have left. Like this is not the end of us, and I think, playoffs are coming up. We're going to make playoffs. There's so much more. Like I just want to get through season, so I'm like, I want playoffs to come. Like I want to show everybody who we are and why we deserve to be here. And it's been a long time coming. Like I've been with teams with this program that are bottom of the table to middle of the table to making quarterfinals, losing in like penalty kicks. So I've seen it, I've heard it all, and like now this is a year where everyone is like has the right mindset and like, okay, we're gonna end off this year in a bang. And me being like one of the only senior players left, is like I want to leave with like a good positive note and like making the girls want more even if the year's coming, and just leave like a positive leadership, positive, just everything, kind of just excited for the years to come.
Mm-hmm.
This new program finally breaking its shell.
Mm-hmm. It'd be remiss of me not to ask about the Crowchild Classic, which I know you've already referenced, but yeah, happening pretty soon. And obviously, the stage is set for a really exciting and intriguing game, 2 top of the table teams. How much are you looking forward to a chance to take on the Dinos, who are also having a great season?
Yeah, I think about it every single day. I will not kid you. So my fun fact, one of my first ever games as a Cougar was against the Dinos. And back in my first year, we actually beat them for the first time in program history back in 2021, years ago now. And we haven't necessarily played them in season, or I guess we have in my 2nd year. But since that game, I think we've all, or at least I've just developed this like kind of sense of like the rivals up the street type of mentality. And we've been still in the Crowchild Classic the last few years playing at Pacific. And like we see them here and there. A lot of us are friends with them, and it's a good rivalry that we have, but we talk about it all the time. Like I'm looking forward to that game like no tomorrow. Playing them first, and we have a whole week off, and then playing them again on the 19th. And also being my senior day, so there's a lot of emotions, I think, for those games, but it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a great game, and I'm super excited to see how like my team comes out and how the Dinos come out, and yeah, it's gonna be a battle for first place because obviously again the game this weekend, but those weekend games will dictate a lot of who finishes first in the prairie, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be heated, but I think it's gonna go down as a game in history for sure for both programs.
Awesome. Last question for you, Bella, is about your individual goals. I know you've talked about this year, but I'm curious about beyond university soccer. I know you mentioned that you're studying criminal justice, but what about continuing with soccer? Is that something you're hoping to do? And yeah, you played League One. What are kind of your hopes after graduating in the spring?
They honestly they change. Soccer for me, I would love if I got an opportunity to go play primarily overseas if that came up. It's not like a huge kind of big goal of mine. Obviously, I'm looking to take over my career and do a little bit more schooling afterwards. Hopefully, either go to law school or complete a master's degree in specialized law, or yeah, just go to law school or just some kind of additional schooling possibly after soccer. But again, if the opportunity comes up to go play primarily overseas, obviously with the Northern Super League really popping off right now, that'd be a really cool experience to have, especially being in Canada. And most likely probably gonna go back to Vancouver to be with family and friends. But I don't know. I'm kind of having like an open mindset. I've been like, you know what? I'm kind of putting it in the universe's hands. Like whatever happens, happens. But I'd be willing to try anything out. Like I'm still young, but I know I for sure want to complete some more schooling, and eventually my career will eventually have to take over here shortly. But yeah, if I could end off on this note with my soccer career, I'd be more than happy.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and answering my questions. Best of luck with the rest of the Cougars season. And yeah, we'll definitely be paying attention to that Crowchild Classic in a couple weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thanks again for having me. Much appreciated.
All right, so let's talk about USports in the men's division. So started off with the rankings for the women's division, so I might as well start off with the rankings for the men's division. Mount Royal, they're nationally still ranked 10th. That was the same as last week. But the Dinos took a bit of a tumble. They were at 11th last week, and they've fallen down to 20th now.
Yeah, they suffered two pretty demoralizing losses last week to Edmonton opponents, and that has clearly affected their national ranking. So they're going to be looking to bounce back with games against the Saskatchewan Huskies and the Lethbridge Pronghorns. They're going to be the home team, but like the women, they're going to be playing at the Calgary Soccer Center on Saturday. Kickoff for that one is 2:15 p.m. And then on Sunday, when they host the Pronghorns, it'll be at McMahon with kickoff at 2:15 p.m.
And the Cougars men's team will face Lethbridge at 4 p.m. Mount Royal campus. And then they'll face the Saskatchewan Huskies at 4 p.m. on Sundays.
Lots of soccer this weekend in Calgary.
Definitely, for sure. We got a lot of matches. I guess that could even be where we could segue into talking about SAIT, because the SAIT Trojans are hosting an all-Calgary derby this weekend as well.
Yeah, we still don't have a name for it, but this is the matchup with Ambrose University. On Saturday, the women's teams will face off at noon, and then the men will follow up at 2:15 p.m. Jason, I think we can probably quite safely predict who will win those matches. SAIT has been a dominant force all season, both the men and the women. On the women's side, SAIT are ranked second in Canada, which is the same as they were ranked last week. On the men's side, they did dip out of the top 10 national rankings from 8th last week down to 11th this week. But Ambrose is a program that is still trying to find its footing at the ACAC level.
We need to come up with a name for this derby. I think we gotta figure out something. I have no ideas though, none whatsoever. But we need to come up with something. I think that's a goal we have to work towards.
I agree, but again, I think Crowchild Classic is clever, but I don't think there's an arterial road that connects Ambrose University with SAIT's campus, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I don't think there is, but there's got to be a way we can connect them. It's just going to require more thought, I guess.
So before we wrap up this week's episode, we just wanted to highlight something that, Jason, you and I both saw on social media this past week and we thought was pretty cool. there is a young soccer player from Calgary who's played for Foothills, APDL, who has recently signed a deal with Nike, all brands.
Her name is Casey Bezzetta, I believe. Yeah, she signed a name, image, and likeness agreement, kind of like those agreements we keep hearing about that a lot of the NCAA athletes are signing. That's pretty impressive, She's 15 years old and obviously a player to watch out for. I don't think we've seen her in League One yet, that I know of at least. I don't think we've really run across her name yet, but if everything seems to be going in the direction it's going right now, I have a feeling maybe in 2026 we'll be talking about her on a bit more of a regular basis.
Yeah, I agree. And at just 15, that makes her the youngest women's soccer player in Canada to join Nike's roster of athletes. And just going to directly quote the social media post we saw, Bezzetta and Nike began discussions last month at Nike World Headquarters in Portland, Oregon. The left-footed Bezzetta turned heads with her performances in Nike-sponsored showcase matches, earning 3-game MVP honors against international academy opponents, including Chelsea FC, Football Victoria, and VfL Wolfsburg. So pretty impressive.
Definitely. Thank you for listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast. You can have this podcast downloaded to your device as soon as it becomes available by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or other platforms. Check out our website at yycsoccer.com, where you can look through our episode archive and find other options to listen, including our YouTube channel. We also have links there so you can buy Scott's book. His book is called Here Come the Cavalry. It's all about the history of pro soccer in Calgary. You can leave a question or comment in the Contact Us section of our website. You can also interact with us on social media such as Twitter or Instagram or Blue Sky, where our username is YYC Soccer 403. Thanks for listening.